The 2023 fire season in California was drastically different than the last decade. Here to talk about what made it unique and how we can prepare for anything 2024 may bring is Brian Marshall, State Fire and Rescue Chief with Cal OES. Thank you so much for joining me, Brian.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Starting out with a recap, 2023 was the first time in about 9 years that fire wasn't a billion-dollar disaster for California. But that didn't necessarily mean that your office wasn't busy, right?
No, we actually started right before the first of the year with an earthquake in Northern California. That took a tremendous amount of response efforts, a very rural area. So we were actively engaged in that before the holidays. Then we got just a small respite and then went into a series of atmospheric rivers that really impacted the state, not only with rain, but tremendous amount of snow.
Yeah, and like you just mentioned, with those atmospheric river events at the beginning of 2023, that definitely changed the game for the water and the snow that year. But how did it impact the fire year?
Now, what we found is the atmospheric rivers impacted more of the central part of the state and not Northern California. So when a series of lightning storms came through the northwest part of the state, we had hundreds of fires that broke out simultaneously, and that challenged the California's fire service.
Oh, I'm sure it did. And unfortunately, the start of 2024 feels like a total 180 compared to last year. What weather-related factors is your team looking at for this snow season?
Well, we continue to monitor the weather. We have a new center here at Cal OES. It's a joint partnership with CAL FIRE and the National Weather Service and some other partners. And we really are focusing in on the weather. And then we pre-position resources. So we have additional firefighters, fire engines, swiftwater rescue boats, whatever the resources that we need, they're in the area ready to respond should we have some sort of disaster.
And out of curiosity, that's how you look at those potential problem areas such as burn scars, correct?
Correct. We have a watershed debris task force here at OES. They take a look at all of burn scars and they put together a model for us to predict if we're going to have a mud and debris flow, which ultimately impacts communities. And we need to take that proactive step to make sure people are evacuated, they're aware, and fire and rescue resources are in place.
Does Cal OES Fire and Rescue prepare differently during a dry versus a wet year?
We are constantly preparing to make sure we're ready at a moment's notice. And the key to being prepared is to make sure the people of California have that information prior to the emergency happening. People have to be prepared if they want to survive.
You mentioned that people need to be prepared, and what's something that you recommend people should be doing at their home in order to prepare for fire prevention and protection?
Well, one thing in California is we want you to be prepared every day. Now that the holidays are over, I think every family should just take a Saturday morning and spend time talking about what their plan is. Should it be a fire? Should it be an earthquake? Do we have food? Do we have medicines? Are our children prepared? What happens if they're at school when a disaster strikes? What is the plan? Making sure that everybody in the family knows what the plan is, and then they need to execute it.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. If there's any additional information that you want people at home to have, is there a specific website that you'd like them to visit?
They can always visit the Cal OES website. FEMA also has really good information to help you prepare for a disaster.
Thank you very much for your time, Brian. I greatly appreciate it.
My pleasure.